Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Milton Richard Ellerby Jr., Daniel Francis Andrus, James Lewis Asher, Edwin Everett Axton, Kenneth Alvin Babb, Michael Bard, Charles Martin Bear, Quentin Ripito Beecher, Vernon Gale Berquist, Wayne William Bernhardt, Wayne Bibbs, David Owen Biggs, William Charles Biley, Curtis Richard Bullscheid, Daniel Hyman Bolden, William Lawrence Bonnell, Emmett Lee Booth, Kenneth James Bossy, Alexander Bryant Brantley, Danny Glenn Braswell, David Allen Brelea, Ronald Joseph Brissett, Harold Milton Brown, Dennis Edward Brown, David Grady Bryan, Russell Don Buckner, James Grady Bullock, Henry Birch, Kermit Edward Berkey, James Allen Burton, William James Caldwell, Gladstone Colwood, Thomas Stewart Cameron, Larry Dexter Carlisle, Robert Sheehan Castellat, Erasmo Camargo Castillo, Arnold Chapdelaine Jr., Charles Joseph Chase, Thomas W. Chatburn III, Charles Dennis Chamel, Dennis Ray Christie, Dean Eddie Clinton, Charles Gust Clitty, Willie Cole Jr., Carlos Manuel Collazo, Toby Ernest Collins, Edward Jerome Colston, Thomas Joseph Conniff, Fergus Francis Connors Jr., Harold Thomas Cook, Paul Core Jr., James Anthony Coy, Harold Jerome Crawford, David Michael Cronin, Ronald Gary Crow, Robert Henry Davis, John Lewis Davis, Thomas Philip Dawson, Paul Glenn Dawson, David William DeLotte, Frank F. DeMaria Jr., Michael Lee Doolin, Bernard W. Dickerson Jr., Elvin James DeMond,
Roland Forrest DiPolo, John Adrian Dossett Jr., Terry Francis Drown, Ernest Lewis Duran, Grady Lee Elder, Merrill Edward Estes, Michael Lee Ewing, Charlie Will Farmer Jr., James Douglas Fazineau, John Joseph Foley III, Charles Evans Ford, Randolph Wright Ford, Ollie Forte, John Malhan Frambase, Frank Rudolph Frost III, Samuel Joseph Gansey, Michael Anthony Garris, Darrell Frederick Gaskins, Stephen James Geer, Paul Gutierrez Gonzalez, Jose Jesus Gonzalez, Charles D. Green, Robert Stephen Grosshart, William Jeffrey Gully, James Edward Hackett, Jack Leonard Hager, Thomas Michael Hanratty, Philip Dean Hardy, Paul Raymond Harrison, Michael William Haverneck, Kenneth Jerome Hawkins, Gordon Abner Hawkins, Michael Eugene Hicks, James Robert Hicks, James Edward Hill, Terry Lynn Hochstetler, Freddie Lee Holloway, Arnold Edward Holm Jr., Mylon Ray Hopkins, Stuart Glenn Hostetter, Robert Joseph Irwin, Terry Lee Ivaner, Johnny Jackson, Donald Wayne Jacobs, Lewis Allen Jefferson, Edward Johnson, Donald Ray Johnson, Oliver Johnson, Sam Jones, Thomas Hubert Jones, David Edward Kenny, Gordon T. Kimbrell Jr., Donald Martin Clem, James Kevin Kohler, James Willard Coy, Harry Grover Kunkler III, David Hugh Lalich, George Wayne Large, Jesse Hugh Lawson, Jack Charles Lee, Charles Edwin Lee, Conrad Lerman, Robert Lee Lockhart, Glenn Dorse Lofton,
Jerry Wayne Looney, John Christopher Lowe, Edward Roy Lukert, John Bruce Lyle, Peter Lynch, Charles Ross Manerel, Willard Dale Marshall, Arthur Justeline Martin, Robert Charles McAndrew, Kenneth R. McKenna Jr., James Russell McQuaid, Umberto C. E. Melendez, Herman Richard Meneely, Franklin Delano Meyer, David George Mischel, John Edward Miller, Richard Lee Miller, Carl William Mills, Robin Patrick Milovich, Richard A. Mitchell, Wilbur Dean Monroe, Manuel Gualberto Montalvo, Stanley Leroy Moore, Raymond Castillo Mora, Jim Edwin Moisher, Ivan Hall Monroe, Clayton Willard Neves, James Raymond Nelson, Tim A. No, Clay Terry Norman, John Sanders Oldham, Bobby Glenn Oliver, Dwayne Elmer Olson, Willie Overstreet Jr., James Robert Page, Edward Vincent Palmenta, John Boyd Parker, Joseph L. Parks, Robert Harvey Pearson, James W. Fair, James Alvin Phipps, Floyd Leon Pittry, Roy Sharp Pitt, Dwight Anthony Price, Jack Ray Price, Harvey Jr. Prophet, David Monroe Pruitt, Ernest Leroy Ramsey, Richard Manford Randolph, Theodore Paul Raymond, Daniel George Reed, Richard Russell Revoir, Robert George Reynolds, Ronald Richards, Thomas Frederick Riggs, Thomas John Riley, Lloyd Eugene Robinson, Randall Charles Robinson, Charlie Robinson Jr., Moses Rogers, Harvey Turner Ross Jr., Raymond Richard Schifferin, Robert Glenn Sekva, Jesse Edwin Shannon,
Edward Jerome Shaughnessy, Charles H. Shelton, Ralph Simon, Bernard James Sneed Jr., Gary Robert Staliker, Herbert Neal Steele, Dennis Arthur Stevens, David Wayne Stewart, Milo Bennett Stibbins, Douglas Lee Strickland, James Clarence Strube, Michael Theodore Sukara, Franklin John Sumich, Dennis Richard Tabor, Alonzo Hughes Taylor, Thomas Eugene Taylor, Raymond Woodrow Templeton, John Roy Thompson, Rex Edwin Thornley, Terry Lee Thornton, Bruce Harold Tibbets, Terrence Richard Titus, Raymond Reed Ull, Ralph Edward Ulmansig, Gary Albert Utrianen, Jose Hilario Velasquez, Franz Xavier Wallner, James Matthew Wandrow, Johnny Lee Webb, Russell Joseph Weekly, Charles Clinton White, James Edward Widener, Norman Columbus Williams, Clark Lee Vern Williams, J.C. Williams, Joel Thomas Willis, Roger Eugene Wilson, Roy Allen Winter, Gerard Theodore Walterman, Michael Greg Worley, Edward Taylor Wright, Billy Joe Wyatt, Robin Ray Yeakley, Glenn John Zamorsky, Donald John Zastowski, Fred Joseph Zeich.